And here we are recording after so much.
It's been some time.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Being an autistic person in a regular person world.
Are you autistic?
I feel like I am. And most of the time, yeah.
It is a
I've never been
spectrum.
diagnosed.
I think everybody's autistic. And most people would say that it tracks that I've attracted several autistic people into my circle. So it makes sense that you would be.
Are you like the whisperer for this?
I guess. I've dated several men who are autistic.
I probably have too, but they're just also undiagnosed like myself. So it's just crazy on crazy.
Just both y'all just not understanding each other.
No, and not making a lot of progress either.
This is not us being ableist. We're just commiserating. It's a spectrum.
Yes. This is spectrum, and I'm on it, so I can never be ableist to a person that, could do more than me.
Well, they are. All the autistic people that I've met, they are so intelligent. They're intelligent in their own unique ways. Yes. So, yeah. Anyway.
I fit into that description.
Yeah.
Welcome back to That's Hot Pod.
We've pivoted, and now we're talking about mental autism, I guess. Would you call that a disorder? It's not a disorder.
No.
It's like being differently abled.
Yes.
Anyway, so welcome to That's Hot Podcast. We're back after a while, and it's been a lot of trial and tribulations in our lives. But for this podcast, we came back after watching the entirety of the Supermodel documentary on Apple, and we're going to talk about that today.
Very exciting. I watched it in a day, back to back to back.
And I learned so much about each one of them that I didn't know. And it was great.
Okay, yeah, I definitely learned a lot about the ones that I don't know about, because I feel like everybody knows about Cindy Crawford. Mm-hmm. And, of course, because I'm a Black girl, I know about all things Naomi Campbell. But I was not that in-depth with the Linda Evangelista story. My God, that girl's been through a lot. And then, who's the fourth one? Christy Brinkley?
No, it's funny that you said that, because I always go to Christy Brinkley.
Oh, it's Turlington.
It's Christy Turlington. I didn't know she's half Latina.
Oh, wow. Okay. You know what was interesting, too, when I was watching it? I guess Christy Brinkley just has a more notable name, but just looking at Christy Turlington and seeing all her throwbacks and, the video that they had of, I'm like, oh, yeah, I've seen this lady a million times. But she just didn't have a vivacious sort of personality, I guess, to kind of get her into pop culture.
Right. But yeah, we've seen so many images of her. It's just she didn't have I don't know, the Naomi. She has the personality. She's very outgoing. We've heard so much about her.
Mm-hmm. The funniest part of the documentary, at least for me, was when the guy, I forget which guy was talking, but he was like, oh, Naomi, she was very cooperative in those days. What do you mean by that, sir? Elaborate on that. He was talking about back in the day, because they were talking about the beginning of Naomi's career, and it was a photographer or something. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, Naomi was very cooperative back in those days. Sir, her first shoot, y'all had her at the beach and then on a slave plantation in Louisiana. I want you to calm down.
Yes. And oh my gosh, it's cool that they actually told real stories. They didn't avoid things. Even she addressed her addiction.
Yes. I do think that it was cool how in-depth they got about things, like Linda telling us about her, shady marriage, Naomi talking to us about her addiction, and her, I guess, getting more into depth about her personal life. I didn't know that Naomi has never met her dad, which is interesting, and I feel very telling on a lot of things that have happened to her in the public eye and stuff. It makes a lot of sense. But also I feel they definitely shied away from the scandalous side of fashion, even to the points of where it was just holes, because, okay, you guys are telling us about Linda's husband, which is fine. And then you touch a little bit about the agency, that Cindy was working for, and that guy being oh, he was they were using a lot of nice language for this man. Oh, he had so much charm, and he was they were trying to make it seem like he was just the most interesting man in the world or whatever. What is the name of it? A Don Juan type of character. But he was abusive.
Was it
and
that
y'all
Gerard
just glossed
guy?
over it. I think so, yes. And they didn't want to go into any detail at all about it. And it was just Jean-Luc was Linda's husband.
Yes.
And he was out basically doing the same thing that other guy was doing. I guess maybe he just wasn't. Well, no, he was, because she was again, the way they glossed over everything. She's like, when I found out the things he was doing, it was just so horrible. Like, what was he doing, girl? Tell us. Y'all want us to Google it? You're not going to say it out of your mouths what actually happened?
Well, they alluded to
and, like,
it.
How it made you feel.
And then it was all over the papers because it was in France. And because it had been so long before, I guess all that came out during, like, Me Too. But the statute of limitations ran out. And the courts just decided that they couldn't, like, follow through with anything, like, proceedings. So he got off scot-free, which sucks.
And Gerald Marie is the one that Linda was married to. And then that man, Jean-Luc, he was living on Hoochie Avenue in Paris. Like, if there's anything more that could tell you about somebody,
yep,
the place they picked to live, he living on Hoochie Ave. It's ridiculous. They said her husband, like, over 16 women came out. So your husband was a creep, and you didn't know he was a creep? He wasn't creeping on you a little bit when y'all met?
Oh, he for sure was. I think she said that she was more so sad that she never came out and told her story, or, you know, whenever she was like washed her hands of it and got out of the marriage, you know, she was just happy to be gone, that she didn't think about, like, he was going to get away with it, like, going forward with all these other women.
Come on now. If Tina Turner didn't tell us about Ike, you think anybody else would have believed what was going on?
Oh, that's awful.
You got to be straight up about these monsters, especially when you're keeping one in your house, in your bed. You got to ring the alarm, Linda. Come on, girl. I thought it was cool that they also incorporated a bunch of the photographers, like Stephen Meisel, people that worked with them. So it wasn't just about the models, because we only get the shots that we get of the models because of the photographers. So, like, it's a kind of three-legged stool with the designers of the clothes, the models, and then the photographer, how they execute. We wouldn't get all of these, like, iconic images.
Oh, yeah. I think it was really cool just to see, like, where each one of them came. And, like, because they were covering 4 girls, there was no lulls. Like, they transitioned between each one of their stories really quickly. And I guess of the 4, it was funny that Linda was the most fashion girly of the bunch, but she found it harder to break through. And, well, because she had to cut her hair, right? And then she didn't really get anything, like, fashion-wise.
She had to cut her hair. She had to move to Paris. Like, Linda was really going through the bullshit.
Yeah, right.
Trying to get seen and be, you know, noticed. And then when she cut her hair, she was really, like, not sure about it. But then things just took off for her. Like, her goal was to be on the cover of Vogue, and then she got, like, back to back.
Yes. And I think something that shows, like, even from, like, the early days and now, because, you know, more recently, she's been back in the news because of her whole, like, botched aesthetic surgery.
Cool sculpting.
Yeah, cool sculpting. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's been a common thread, and probably even why she got in the relationship with that man, is just, like, her lack of confidence. And it kind of, you can see it, like, in the documentary.
Definitely. Because I feel like, okay, and they even said it in the documentary. I forget which photographer they were talking to, but he was like, "Oh, does Naomi still look the same?" And they were like, "Oh, better." You know, that was a consensus amongst them. But through all 3 of them, they were kind of self-conscious, like they kind of aged. Chrissy probably seemed the most confident in that age, because it's like she doesn't care. She's very far removed from fashion at this point.
Yeah. So
she's more so of like I don't know a good person to compare it to, but more sort of like, I guess, a Jane Fonda, if you would. Like, I'm older now, but yes, I was that girl. I used to be hot. I'm still hot in my way.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever jobs will come to me, accepting me in this form, like my natural, like, back to the same stuff she was doing back in the day, like Calvin Klein, eternity type. I'll do that. But the more is more like over the top glamour. I'm not really that girl. Like, you're going to leave that for your Naomi's. Cindy Crawford probably just got out of it because she had such a legendary, iconic look. And then she got into Hollywood, which they touched on a lot. Like, she was married to Richard Gere, which seems so weird. Like,
that's so random.
It was like her grandpa. But okay, now you're kicking it with all these old Hollywood people. And of course, they're like, yeah, get your young hot girlfriend in a movie and stuff. But like, her movies weren't good. But still, it got her a spot. Like, in pop culture, everybody knows Cindy Crawford, like that look. Even when she was talking about the mole, how they took off her mole and they gave it back to her.
Yeah.
Like, that was interesting. But these were more so like all American girls. I feel like they probably got a husband and sort of ducked off with their money, you know, could live a good life. Like, she has Kaya and her kids model, so her life is kind of filling up with that in a way, where Linda Evangelista seems kind of sad. Naomi just started. Yeah, Naomi just got a kid like last year, so she's back reinvigorated. She's a new mom,
And she was a surrogate.
and
So,
then
like, right? She had a surrogate. So,
she had to, yeah.
yeah, because she was never out of commission getting these jobs.
No. Yeah, Naomi is on magazine covers every year. I would have loved for them to speak about that a little bit if they could. I know, like, time permitting, they were covering 4 girls. But if they had covered, or maybe Naomi needs her own documentary of just her longevity and her work ethic and how prevalent she has been across all of the decades. Like, to watch this and see she started in the 80s, that blew my mind. Like, what do you mean?
And then, actually, because she is about to have a retrospective at the V&A, I believe in London, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so she's about to have an exhibit about her and her career, which would be cool to see. Random thing, they did talk about it briefly, about how she was the, like, only black girl to be on, like, the runways. And then it would have been interesting to, like, hear, I guess, what she was going through, her perspective of the whole her versus Tyra.
Yes, I would have loved that so much, because let me tell you, I grew up, and maybe because Tyra Banks is from LA, so I'm like just more in tune with that or whatever. But maybe after the first episode, or like midway through the first episode, I was like, oh, I totally get why there was a beef between Naomi and Tyra, because Naomi had to fight and stand up for herself literally, and like use any connection that she had available to her. So like the fact that Azadine Elia basically adopts her when she's 16, and like she's living there and all this, she has built up these connections and has grown up with these people. It was Miss Evangelista, Chrissy Turlington. They're all saying they used to threaten not to come to the shows if Naomi didn't get booked.
Oh, yes. I love that
And
sisterhood.
yes, and she was saying herself, like, sometimes they will book me and not even use me, like, just to appease me or just to not piss off the other girls. But they knew that they had to book me or do something. And I do remember seeing, like, a lot of shows, a lot of fashion stuff. Even growing up, Naomi was the only black representation. So here comes Tyra Banks, who is a whole, like, shade lighter than her and everything, and is more so in line with, I guess, like, white America's ideal black girl, because Naomi is still coming from Europe. So she has no idea about, like, she even touched on that a little bit, like, oh, I don't know nothing about America except for I know February is Black Month. They'll have, everybody black on the magazine covers, and then, like, of course, hip hop and all of that. So Tyra Banks, real American girl. She's light skinned. She has these light eyes, big boobs, like everything that America deems as pretty. And you're popping up on these fashion runways and you think, I'm going to make space for you? No, girl, take it to the back. Don't think just because you're black, we're cool. Like, that don't mean nothing. I'm cool with the other heavy hitters over here. Like, who are you, Tyra Banks? You're not in our group. You didn't put in on any of this. You just showed up. And I know from just by Naomi's attitude and how she speaks and how she carries herself, all of that, because she is very nice to the younger models, like the generation under her. But you're coming to take food off of my plate. They already said there can only be one black girl, and I have been that black girl. Who are you, Tyra Banks? No, take it to the back of the bus.
I can definitely see how that, like, affected her whenever she was younger. And it helps that now that she's, like, nurturing, like, the new talents. But I don't know. We can't all come from that, like you can't win because it has to be me, you know? But I guess she wasn't there yet. And plus, the industry wasn't there.
The industry wasn't there. And Tyra, you're the newcomer. Like, who are you to think that automatically I'm just going to embrace you and welcome you in? And I get it, because for black Americans, that's kind of how we operate. Like, you see another black person in the crowd, you're like, hey, like, what's up? Or you want to give them a peace sign or high five them. But black people outside of America aren't operating on that same thing, because they didn't have the same slavery experience and segregation experience. So it's not everybody black, we all on the same team. Like Issa Rae said, I'm rooting for everybody black. No, I'm rooting for myself, homegirl. Like, back it up. Go over there, find your own group. Get your own friends. Yeah. Why do you want to come here? And then who else was there? There's another, Gabrielle Union had a very similar experience to this and a very similar story. She even talked about it, how it wasn't until she, like, after she got way, way grown and married Dwayne Wade and all of these things and was doing internal work, that she discovered that she used to be the mean girl. Like, she would down talk other black girls, and she would be very nasty and, like, catty with girls, because, there's only a spot for one of us. Yeah. So there's kind of no room for friendship and all of that. Like, if somebody's going to tear you down, it's going to be me, because I want that spot. So that's probably what Naomi was experiencing, a little bit of lack, a fear of, if she gets it, then what's going to be left for me? I totally get it. And just Tyra Banks' personality, all happy and, like, I don't know, jolly, like a bobblehead, kind of. No disrespect to Tyra. But I'm sure Naomi and her cigarette smoking and her other, very strict, upright models with their classical training were like, get her out of here.
I do totally get it because, like, I don't know. I feel like I would have a more similar, like, personality to Naomi. And people who are, like Tyra, I just, like, get away from me.
I feel like that's why we're friends too, because and it's not like I don't like happy people, but you just seem dumb. Like, you don't seem that smart. You don't seem like a person that knows what's going on. Because if you did, you would not be so bubbly all the time. It's like childish.
Right.
So, I don't know. Yeah, you got to be a little stern out here, ladies and gents.
And then, so the documentary, it, like, introduced me to things that, like, I wasn't even aware about, because I feel like we were really young, about how, like, yes. Cindy, she did her whole, like, Playboy thing, and then going from, like, modeling and then segueing that into, like, just various types of entertainment. And, like, how you said she went into movies at one point. What did she say, that Prince made a song about her?
Yeah, Cindy C. He was basically calling her a prostitute. Oh. Because I guess they had, like, it was like a fake beef. So Cindy was at a club, I guess, in New York. This is all alleged. Okay, we don't want to be sued. But yeah, allegedly Cindy was at a club in New York City late night, whatever, and then Prince is there also in the club. She knows of him, but Cindy, for lack of a better word, she's a white girl from middle America. She's not really fazed like that. She doesn't really care. It's not like it was Michael Jackson. It's Prince. Like, okay, cool. And he's small. Like, she's a tall model. She's bigger than him. It would not be somebody that she would want to date. But Prince is feeling like he's that nigga. He's in that bag, that Purple Rain bag. And he's like, oh, Supermodels are here. Yeah, come over here to my table. Come over here to me. And I guess she wasn't really with it. Like, she wasn't impressed. So he makes a whole song, bitter diss track. He's the original Drake. Sydney C. And he's talking about how, it costs X amount of thousands to have her for a night and all of this stuff. And how she was, like, just because she didn't want to be with you, just because she didn't want to date a man in heels, Prince.
Wow, that's so petty.
You got a little salty. And you were saying she was like a high-priced escort. That's a bitter accusation.
Truly.
And if you had that money, how come you didn't drop it on her then, if it was that easy? I'm just saying. The comeback is always that she's a hoe. She didn't hoe for you, and that's why you're mad.
Another thing that they touched on in the documentary was that, so, they were hot for so long. And then at some point, there was the convalescence, just like the industry straight, well, convalescence of their career at that point. Because, of course, everything's a cycle. We're back, they're back on top right now. But, they had their little, like, moment where nobody really wanted them. And that's when they segued into the waif look. And it brought us, oh my God, if I can't.
The heroin chic.
Yes. What's Kate? No. Kate Moss.
Yeah, it is Kate.
Moss. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, which is funny because all those models, they had a figure and they had, like, breasts and everything, like an actual figure. And just kind of like to sway the other way. And I personally don't think, and they even said it in the documentary, that there was nothing truly beautiful about Kate Moss. And I agree.
No, she looked like a child, like a hungry child.
Right.
But the most interesting part about all of this, I feel, so I got to go back because you were talking about them, like, have Cindy Crawford. She really just became like the first influencer. That was like the thing that stuck out to me because, okay, you're this hot girl and you're known for this. You do Playboy and you kind of piss off the high fashion people. So you end up, over here. And to start off, she wasn't even really trying to do high fashion. She was just in catalogs in Chicago, just getting that money. Yeah. She would have been fine with that. But then you turned down a job with this guy, so he's never going to book you again. So now you have to go and try to be like an actual real model. So then you're doing that. You do Playboy, you piss off the fashion people. So now you're like, well, I'm just going to sell my own calendar. It was more so like Cindy has always been about her money. I respect that.
That's
in a
good.
Girl. Like,
especially because, like, that came out of, apparently, and she alluded to it, but she didn't say much about it, how Sports Illustrated really wasn't for her and she just didn't have, like, a great experience. And from that, we got the calendar. So, yeah, love that, like a businesswoman.
They're probably being pervy with her. And that was another thing. Like, why don't you just tell us the truth? Why are y'all using all of this flowery language? Maybe because these people are still in the industry and you don't want to piss them off and, like, name too many names.
Right.
But it's like, if they did something to you, tell us. Because Naomi also did that when she was telling us a story about how some editor, art director touched her boobs and she called Mr. Elia to snitch on him. Like, tell us his name. What's going on, ladies?
Right. It was really cool because, like, of, like the typical model experience, they just get used and it's insidious. But she really had, like, a relatively great experience, especially because she was adopted by, of all people in the world, Azadine Alaya. And,
Yes.
I took her in and was her, quote unquote, her papa, and really could just like help her nourish her in the business, but also be that parental figure. That's great.
And give her all of these other connections. Like, I'm sure Naomi Campbell does not just meet, Monsieur Saint Laurent on her own. So these other people with power because of your connection to Mr. Elia. And then it was Yves Saint Laurent who made the call and got you on your first Vogue cover.
Right.
Like, that's a huge deal.
Dang it. So that's all we need to do to get on Vogue is just know somebody.
Yes. Like, I don't want to be crass here, but who do we gotta bang? Like, let us know. And how many times?
I'm single, so I'm up for it.
I feel like for a certain amount of, come up, it could all be worth it. People have exchanged more for less.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I do agree that Naomi had the best experience. Also, I felt like it was very, very interesting how she has bridged across all the time periods, like we were talking about earlier, when the other ladies kind of haven't. Like, I think it was Sydney who made the joke, like, oh yeah, we're old models now, we have boobs, because Naomi has always been skinny and like more of a dancer body. When they did the waif era, it was like, okay, maybe it'll be harder for you because you're black, but you're still like besties with Kate Moss, and you're going out, and you guys got the same shape, so you can still do these certain type of shows.
Yeah. So she's always been like a prominent figure in fashion, which is great. Yeah. Whereas the others, well, and also Linda, she had her whole issue, so she was like shut in indoors for like so many years. How many years was that? She
was saying, they were like, oh, this has been her. She's been off the catwalk for 14 years or something like that. Yeah. And it's like, why?
Right.
Oh, something else creepy that I noticed. Oh, sorry. When they were doing the whole Chrissy Turlington story about her working with Calvin Klein and that being the biggest contract and all of this, that man kissed her in the mouth.
Calvin Klein?
Yes.
Wait,
and it was gay. So creepy. I guess. Everybody's the same when the lights are out.
Ew.
And he kissed her right, and just even how he was dealing with her, I was like, oh, this is so like almost pervy. These little interactions. I was like, is he the first American Apparel man? Because Grace Coddington said he always wanted everything to be super erotic and sexy and everybody sleeping with everybody. And then there was AIDS, and they just wanted to chill and calm everything down, so they switched the Calvin Klein aesthetic to the family.
Oh, right. Crazy.
That's so creepy.
Yes.
She was making $1 million a year off of only 100 days of work. That is intense. But she couldn't do any other fashion jobs.
Right. And that's cool that she like then left that, or had the leverage so that she could do both.
Oh yeah.
And then she really found it fulfilling.
Like more than just going out for these perfume openings at Macy's.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that got boring. And then they talked about something that I feel like was very specific to me, how cable TV came and made fashion like global and made it much more accessible to people. Because prior to, I was born in the early 90s. So I feel like if fashion would have never been on TV, it would have never been something like on my radar, something that I could care about or even be interested in as a hobby. Because how like the internet wasn't that prevalent yet, I wouldn't have been able to get street style pictures from like the sartorial list or anything. So what would I have done? I thought that was so cool. And like Cindy Crawford being a pioneer of that, bringing it on MTV with House of Style.
I never saw any of those. And I didn't even like, whenever they, in the documentary, they go about talking about the various ventures. I totally forgot they mentioned that. But House of Style on MTV, that was so like random. But good for her, and being a businesswoman once again.
Yeah, and she said, and I liked that they pointed out, because I feel like that kind of information is what's helpful to people that are trying to follow like in a certain footstep, when you actually let them know like the nitty gritty. She said if she had only been a model, she would have never got chosen for that opportunity. It was because she had the Playboy fans, all the male fans, and then her female fashion fans that they gave her the show, because they thought, oh, you could really bring in viewers to this. If it had just been one or the other, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
And then they ended up, before this, like right before they get kicked out of the scene, like you were saying, their convalescence, they did that George Michael video, which like all the designers were trying to use them for clout before they finally, threw them away. And I think it was mainly because of Linda's comments. She wouldn't get out of bed for less than $10,000 a day.
Oh, yeah. That was.
So it kind of turned everybody off.
Oh, right. And then there was even a blurb clip of Anna Wintour talking about how like they've, come to the end of their height which is weird.
Honestly, I feel like everybody was just hating on them because they really were the draw to it, if you can say. Like, okay, you can have, even now, like, that's why I feel like a lot of people don't care about runway. Even people that are so-called like fashion aficionados or whatever, they don't really care about runway. They're more so interested in street style because we don't have any superstars anymore like that. Like, there was a brief moment with like Joan Smalls and Chanel Iman, Agnes Den, but there hasn't really been that monumental like group like they had with the supers. And why wouldn't I charge you a premium if I know that everybody's coming here and you're going to get all this press and you know that you're going to get way more fanfare at your show because I'm here? Shouldn't I'm only getting paid off of this once. You're going to get paid off of the press, you're going to get paid off selling the items. I only get paid for this day that I'm here. Why wouldn't I charge you a premium for that?
No, totally.
Like, even Naomi saying when she fell at Vivienne Westwood, like, more designers were calling her, asking her to fall for them because they wanted the press. Like, then I'm going to charge you.
Yes.
Why is that wrong?
That little excerpt from a video where a interviewer was asking her about her pricing and why or not does she think it's so high. And she said it's only a fraction of what their advertising budget actually is. And relative, she's not really like that costly.
And I couldn't agree with that more, especially seeing like some of the shoots and how all out they go, especially back then when they were like really spending that money. You flew 30 people out to another country for this shoot. They probably came on private planes, all of that. You brought all this lighting, you got the costumes, all of that. You're paying me the least, really. Maybe the grip guy and like some of these people that you're just underpaying in general. But like, how much is the photographer getting paid? How much are these people like? Nobody's questioning them, but because I'm the face of it and you don't view me as that valuable anyways because I'm a woman.
Yep.
Or I'm just wearing the clothes. Like, I should be happy for the experience. Give me my money. I cannot pay for my apartment and my other, you know, my fancy things with my looks. Like, the people don't care. The landlord don't care. He wants that check. Why is that seen wrong? And I think some of them pointed that out too. Like, if they were men and they were commanding that, nobody would have anything to say. But because they were women, you just seem like greedy and I hate the term like greed or ungrateful when it comes to a job, because we are here to do a job. We're here to provide a service. There's no greed, there's no grateful. So it's just insane. And then like, to compare it, if we're going to talk just advertising budgets, think about now like Super Bowl commercials and all that, how much millions they pay. So if you paid $3 million to get this like 30-second spot, you're not going to pay the girl in the ad $10,000.
Right? Relative, it's like so cheap.
Seems so shady.
But I guess the overarching like, and they did mention it in the documentary about how there were other girls, auxiliary ones, Amber Valletta. Who was the other one? Claudia Schiffer.
Yasmin Gouhari.
Yeah. And so, you know, but this one, these four in particular, it was because, Cindy and Naomi, right? They were roommates, right? Or was it Christy and Naomi?
Oh, man.
They moved to New York.
Yes.
And they got an apartment together. Mm-hmm. You know, so like there's the roommate thing, but through them, they were just like a crew. They're actually friends besides working in these jobs together. And they generally care about each other, which I love. And
it was nice to see that side, I guess, of them, because you never really get to see that side, especially of like Naomi, because she's still like very active. You don't get to see them like in their interpersonal relationships and how they treat people. I thought it was so sweet how like when they were in that room, I guess they were preparing for the final shoot in the last episode, and they had them all split up, which I could imagine like some of them are older, they might be feeling self-conscious, cough cough Linda. She didn't want everybody seeing her process of getting ready, but they were like, you can take these down, like you can split this up, like, oh, we can be in the same room, or we can, like, who asked for all of this? And then Naomi, who's seemingly always on a call, is like still like hugging them, giving them double kiss, like doing what she can, more than what we see them interact with other people, I guess is the point.
Yeah.
Humanize them.
It was good. I highly recommend it.
I recommend it too.
It's on Apple TV, so find somebody who has Apple TV and use a subscription.
Oh, one more thing. I was very, very jealous that the London girls got a fashion cafe. Like the Rock Cafe fashion version.
Weird.
I was like, I could see how that would be a stupid business idea. I definitely could.
Yes.
Because, you know, fashion, we're not known for eating.
I guess it could be just like all salads, but I guess that's the Kardashian shtick.
The original Sweet Greens, we have salads and we have martinis. We also have cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a good time to me. I'd be down. But yes, I guess that's it for this episode.
What we agreed was that we're going to do one a month. So this is for October. even though
Yes.
October ends tomorrow.
Yes.
But we're going to do one a month, and then we're going to be like full force in 2024. So
We're going to be outside. And we're going to be doing these versions instead of video so we can be more consistent, because it's very hard being a beautiful person, being perfect all the time on camera. So for us to stay more consistent, we're going to hide our beauty behind these wonderful images and the editing so we can be more consistent. So, pick your poison. If you want to see our face, it's going to be few and far between. You want to just hear our voice, we will be there. We'll be there for you when you need us.
sounds good. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Follow us on all the social medias.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.